All right, so let's just talk about black diamonds. Where did the idea come from?
It comes from basically in nowhere. So I 2009, I want to start this luxury real estate agent. So they said luxury diamonds means luxury. So I said, okay, let's go for diamonds. But diamonds is like a jewelry, So we pick up black, and we want to do black diamonds with S, but S is not available. I just put a Z. So
okay.
as simple as that.
All right. So, but because it's called black diamonds, do you have to say something to your market to explain that you are actually a real estate business?
Not really. So
Really?
I think it will come to my speech a bit later. What we heard from all the panelists, for yourself, Peter. So even I'm a real estate agent, I don't have to just to sell a real estate.
Yeah.
So if I'm just selling a real estate, I'm just another real estate agent. I'm actually a businesswoman. I'm an entrepreneur. So I sell Australian lifestyle. It is luxury. It is amazing. That's why all my clients pay me top prices.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. And that carries on from the theme from our American colleagues who are saying that Australia should play up its quality image, and food and wine, all that sort of stuff goes together.
Absolutely, because after this morning session, I feel everybody is so humble. It's just such a typical Australian mentality or behavior. So if you just, after Mr. Andrew
Are you saying that
McEvoy's,
we're too humble?
you're very, very humble.
That's about to change.
So I hope that's about to change. So we want to pump you up a little bit after lunch, and you'll probably be shocked, but I'm a very humble person myself.
Oh, liar. Liar.
But in terms of business, and I think we're going to share something really exciting with you guys.
Okay. So, Andrew, how did you end up in the company of Monika?
I met Monika through my wife, actually, because Monika also gives a lot to charity, and that's how I met Monika, and just was amazed by her ability to have impact. So it's almost funny, that Monika is not necessarily humble in her business life, but it's because she stands out, has impact. And one thing I've heard constantly today is that Australian wine doesn't yet stand for quite enough. So I think with people like Monika and China, we have the opportunity to make a real impact, to stand for things, to be prestigious, to be fine wine, to trade in that higher end. And I think that's why people like Monika are really great to work with.
Okay, I'm sure, like everybody else in the room, I'm looking forward to hearing your presentation. So Andrew first, followed by Monika. Put your hands together.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. That's great. I think it's fantastic that Donald Trump and Xi Jinping are meeting together today in honour of the fact that we're talking about the US and China. Very convenient, I believe. So what are we going to go through today? We've done a little bit of Who Am I, so don't worry about that one. The title of this is 5 Mistakes People Make in China and How to Avoid Them. Just quickly on my background, I ran Tourism Australia for a bunch of time. I ran South Australian Tourism. In my time at Tourism Australia, I visited China more than 20 times. I built strong and deep relationships, particularly with people like the airlines, because airlines are oxygen. And I learnt a little bit about the culture, but not enough. What I did learn was how to build those relationships, keep those relationships, and I found that after years of doing that, business really flowed. So we'll talk a bit about that. What are the 5 mistakes a lot of us make when we go up? How can we avoid them? I want to talk a little bit about the visitor market, the 1.2 million mainland Chinese, but a whole much bigger audience of the Chinese diaspora, plus the Chinese Australians who live here, and how you could make them great advocates with what is, I think, a wine bottle, a liquid postcard back to their country. So I want to talk about the visitor market in particular as the end of my presentation. Then I'm going to introduce you more formally to Monika Tu, who is a force of nature and has built a business around property lifestyle concierge, has built a recruiting business, and is now building out a marketing and PR business. So taking her entrepreneurial skills, her expertise and understanding of East and West, and really making them work for companies here in Australia. The first mistake I think people make is a lack of commitment and understanding. Who in the room has been to China? Heaps of you. Who's been more than a dozen times? Heaps of you. I think the wine industry and the tourism industry is pretty committed, but I meet a lot of people. Now, going there is one thing, meeting people, sustaining their relationship is another. When I was running Tourism Australia, I met a lot of people who went on the big trade shows, 400 delegates, all that sort of stuff. They would meet them, they would politely swap cards two-handed. then they'd never really talk to that distributor again. And I found that Australian tourism, and I hope the wine industry is not the same, was building a bit of a reputation of we love meeting these guys, but they don't keep in contact. They don't necessarily follow up with us. The other thing I found was that, you've got to go there, but you're not just getting the Audi transferred to the luxury 5-star hotel and hanging around at the convention centre. If you're doing that, you're missing the real China. So the people that I saw in that category, and I think in wine, who did it best, went local, went out with their wine buyer or distributor, they went to their home, they went to the restaurants they'd go to, they observed, they understood, they got down and dirty, they understood the society from the inside out. So I think the commitment is beyond just turning up, it's how do you keep the relationship, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. There's a really interesting stat that came out, and I was just talking about it with Peter, that you hear all the ASX 200 and 300 companies talking about the next frontier of China. There's not many companies in Australia that don't say they've got a China strategy, but 89% of Australian companies in that ASX 200 don't have a Chinese language website, don't have a Chinese language media strategy. So it's one thing, I think, to go and build the relationships, very important, get down and dirty, but it's even more important that you make the effort to continue the hand of friendship through language. And I think that it's not that hard to do, but so many companies don't do it. I think, Monika, there's a lot of business here for us. 89% of people don't have that site. You know this, who've been up a lot. Build trust, it takes time, deals come. Trust is personal. I think Westerners often go with a deal in mind. I think in China, people go wanting to know more about you. Can I do business with this person? I became very good friends with the president of China Southern, Mr. Tan. Mr. Tan and I met about 9-10 years ago. When I go to China now, he still takes me to his office. He's got a beautiful tea house at the back and he serves me tea. And he serves it to me because that's the culture and he's humble and he wants to do that. He gave me a bottle of 50-year-old Maotai. Now, that guy still asks me to this day for advice on where China Southern should fly next. Isn't that amazing? Like, he's trusting me so much. We've built such a long-term relationship that we still keep in touch. And when he comes to Australia, he always makes time for me. When I go to China, I always make time for him. So it wasn't until about 2 to 3 years into that relationship where the business really started to flow. And I think that's so important. Relationships matter. Eating and drinking builds relationships. When I ran Tourism Australia, I used to say that the Chinese in particular travel on their belly. They want to eat well. I think they've got a lot of Australian qualities. They want to have a great time with their mates and they want to celebrate. So learning, and you guys are better than anyone I've ever seen, learning intelligent drinking, I think is a really important thing. Quick story, my chairman was ex-Qantas boss, Jeff Dixon. He didn't like the Maotai, but I said to Jeff, you've got to take one for the team, you have to drink the Maotai. But I gave him a trick. I said, you know the wet towel they put down next to you on the left? Every time you kampai and drink your Maotai, wipe your mouth, but spit the Maotai in. And he would do that, and I used to fear for the safety of the waitresses and waiters who'd take that wet towel back, and I just hope they didn't put it near an open flame. But Jeff became very good at looking like he was drinking, but it was intelligent drinking. And they used to all say to me, oh, little man, but very good drinker. I think really importantly is think Chinese, not just China. China, from a tourism point of view, is 1.2 million mainland Chinese. It's a big market. It's growing at an average of 18 to 20% per annum. It's great. But there are 1 million Chinese-born Australians, CBAs, who live in our country. It's our biggest source of migration. There is another bunch of Australian-born Chinese who have heritage. There are permanent residents, PRs. There are students, almost 200,000. There are visiting friends and relatives who come to see those students on average twice a year. And that's a big deal. I'm not sure I've got enough acronyms there for you, but if I could do more. But the Chinese diaspora beyond mainland China, in Hong Kong, in Taiwan, in Malaysia, in Singapore, in the US, in the UK, and here in Australia, is the Chinese market. Why is that? Because that heritage, they share customs, culture, holiday periods, and social mediums like WeChat. It is one of the biggest communication tools going around, and Monika will speak more about it. So thinking about China is one thing, but you have a home-based Chinese market who is highly influential over mainland Chinese. In the tourism industry, at 7 o'clock at night, the highly itinerised Chinese consumer is dropped off at their hotel, let's say in Sydney, not in Sydney because they don't pay the rates in the middle, so they're in Parramatta or at the Boulevard on William Street. At 7 o'clock at night, they're up for it. what are they doing? They've stopped their itinerary. They often have a friend or relative. Where do they go? They often just go down to Chinatown. There's a big opportunity there to actually grab these people, make them advocates, the local people who'll tell your story into China. So my point here is think Chinese, not China. Some of the casino operators, Star, Crown, are very good at this. They really tap into that Chinese-born Australians, the diaspora here. You know this, but decisions do get made at the top in China. It is a hierarchy, and whenever you can, go as high as you can because you'll get more influence. I'm not sure if you'll get to see this guy, but I found that in positions of power, and I think this is a real role Wine Australia can play on behalf of the wine industry. Wine Australia has a government logo. When I travelled to the US with my Tourism Australia card, I took the government logo off because when you talk to Americans, they see a government logo, they think, oh, nothing's going to happen. When I went to China, I made sure the government logo was prominent because the Chinese value government, they trust government, they go with government. And I think Wine Australia has a great role to play of being your Trojan horse, to really get in there at the top, highest possible levels they can get into to tell the Australian wine story and open doors for you. And for you guys as exporters, you know this, but deal with the big guys. It's really, really important. Monika will talk more about that, and I think there is a high net worth strategy which Wine Australia and you as an industry could undertake with the likes of influencers like Monika and people that she knows. The final sort of mistake that I think people make, which I'll talk a little bit more about, is that all these people are visiting you, they're coming to your home. These Chinese visitors, they come to your home, they come to your cellar door, but we don't make friends with them, we don't keep in touch. So let's talk a little bit about that. Just 128,000 of the 1.2 million actually visited a cellar door last year, and that was down 6%. We need to fix this. I think the wine industry should be working with more of what I'd call the honeypot attractions in Australia. The fish markets in Sydney gets 450,000 Chinese visitors a year. They are there every lunchtime. I go down there often, and I look at them and think, why are they not sampling a nice crisp Australian Riesling or a rosé or something because it's a beautiful sunny day and they're eating their fish? And we're not there. I chair a company called Sealink. We own ferries all around the country. We carry 145,000 Chinese on Sydney Harbour being our best one. They're on boats. And I want to work with you guys to build a deck at the top of those boats where they're cheersing as they go under the harbour bridge with a great glass of Australian red, the picture of the harbour bridge under them, and they're clicking that and sending it to Weibo, WeChat, etc. And then we could grab their data and we could re-communicate with them. There are things in Australia that are happening where there's lots of Chinese visitors going that I don't see wine present, and I think you guys could do more of that. Really importantly, when they do come to your home, this is what I mean about making friends, help them with language. Even just symbolically, the ability, if you have someone who can speak Mandarin, fantastic, but if not, having some element at your cellar door in language really I do think matter. Technology will be your friend there, and I want to talk to you a little bit about an entity called UI in a minute, which is a made-up Chinese word which means travel abroad. And it's a technology platform that's going to solve, I think, a lot of the issues around if we can't speak the language, they can, and you can actually use technology to be your friend. So I really do think that when they turn up, we've got to do more than sell them that one bottle of Pinot or that one bottle of Shiraz. We need to engage them. They need to be taking photos at a really prime spot that celebrates your brand, which they'll share. You need to amplify those images on Weibo, on WeChat, wherever they are, and you need to capture their data. And I think Australian tourism and Australian wine don't capture the data of the Chinese visitors well at all. Those 1.2 million Chinese a year are coming and going anonymously, and we have this opportunity to capture their data and communicate with them. You all know that they don't buy much wine when they're at your cellar door because they're worried about transporting it, etc. But they would buy plenty more because they've had a physical experience with you if you could recontact them back in China. Quick anecdote, Milton Winery in Tassie. Is anyone here from Milton Winery? Beautiful little winery in between the Freycinet coast and Hobart. My wife and I are travelling. We pull in, great young Kiwi sommelier, fantastic enthusiast, taking us through the wines. A Chinese couple driving a rented BMW turn up wearing great clothes. They came in. He was enthusiastically trying to explain the wines. They weren't quite getting it. So they left, and I said, how did that go? He goes, oh, the Chinese don't really buy much wine. I said, look at the car they drove, look at the clothes they wore. there's got to be a better way to capture their information and re-communicate with them and help them understand what you're serving them. So I think that's a really important thing. And there is this technology opportunity in a thing called UI. UI is a technology platform. What it does, it takes your wine list and translates it into Mandarin. On the devices that the Chinese use, using QR codes, where on WeChat they scan and all of a sudden your wine menu is now in Mandarin. They can understand it. When they want to try a wine, they can click, translate, turn it around and show you in English what it is that they want to try. Down the track, it'll also help with payment. They want to pay on TenPay, WeChat Pay. They want to pay on Alipay, they want to pay on Union Pay, and they'll be able to transfer the money directly from their app into your account. They will give you their data. They'll take a photo and post it on Weibo. You can actually recontact them back in China and say, hey, great to meet you at the Milton Winery in Tasmania. I know you liked our rosé. Do you realise you can get it in China? Here's our distributor. So this is where it's going, and I think these guys are closest that I've seen to actually achieving it. I won't go through it all. It is an app, but it's agnostic. QR codes are big in China. Everyone who goes there knows this. It's how they shop, it's how they work. When a Chinese person, or a Korean for that matter, or a Japanese person sees a QR code, they just automatically scan it. If that can tell your story in their language, you're much further down the path of actually capturing them. If you could also then, they could click and opt in to you and you could get their data, that will be phenomenal. So I think this is one example that I've seen in Australia that's agnostic, it's a technology platform, and it will solve in a large way the language issue. It will make Chinese feel more welcome and it will allow you to recontact them. Technology is really our friend. I won't talk much more about it, but tourism is the greatest marketing tool available to brands like you when they come to your door. The Chinese buy what they discover overseas. They get a story to tell. They go back and tell that story and people go, wow, and then they buy as well. They are major influencers. And on this platform, if you create your wine list, your food menu once and well, your experience at your winery, these guys will translate it. So it's you being good at what you do and allowing others to actually help you tell that story. I won't go through all the numbers, you know it. This is to the tourism point, 1.25 million. Look at the breakdown. More than half of them are on holiday, but there's a big percentage who are visiting friends and relatives, and I think that's a really important stat. Look at the number of carriers that are flying now. Now, when I started at Tourism Australia, there were 3 carriers, China Southern, China Eastern and Air China, and Qantas had pulled out of Beijing and was going to Shanghai and back. When I left, you look in 2016, all these other carriers are coming online. A, the big 3 have really expanded, but B, people like Sichuan Airlines, Tianmin, all these guys are coming on board. I was just saying to Stu Barclay a moment ago, it would be great to see, working with Tourism Australia and Wine Australia, that more Australian wine was available on those. These are entry points for these Chinese consumers. Chinese consumers, like Australian consumers, get on Chinese airlines. And so I think this could be a great showcase for us. And it's only getting bigger. The second-tier airlines from the west, people like Sichuan out of Chengdu, Chongqing, they're coming in greater numbers. They love shopping. They spent 1.1 billion, and I think, you know, another opportunity at Cellador is what else can you sell them? What else can you sell them that becomes their pride, that they can carry easily in their suitcase back home, and it's a memory of you, and it's a story they can tell. But I'm really disappointed and surprised in this, and I think this is an area that we could really get into. I just wanted to unpack this a bit, so I had a look at some of the numbers. What are the most important factors for the Chinese coming to our country? Safety and security is really important for everyone who travels, but it's really about world-class nature. And I'll talk about this in a minute, but I think that's the selling point for Australian wineries, not necessarily the wine. That might be a bit controversial, but let's get to that. Good food and wine, but we'll get to see what that means to the Chinese in a minute. And they love the aquatic and the coastal. Seafood is very important. So if you look at the current associations amongst Chinese with Australian food and wine, it's really about seafood, the environment, healthy, pristine, clean, green, all those words you hear. The wine component of it isn't strong, is not strong. So the food component is stronger. So partnerships with meat and livestock, with aquaculture, these are partnerships I think will serve the wine industry very, very well. What do they do? The interesting street food, these are things they love. But you look at the actual visits to wineries and all that is low down. So sort of the bonus insight, number 6 if you like, I don't think in the tourism space it is necessarily just about the wine, although I do think that owning some things regionally is really important. I actually think that the wineries that you own, that you run, that have cellar doors, are the epitome of what they love about Australia, which is clean, green, fresh, naturally free-spirited places. Just look out there. It is phenomenal. Oftentimes at Tourism Australia, Chinese travel agents would say, do we Photoshop our images? Are those skies really that blue? Are the greens really that green? When you go to a winery, that is the experience they get. So for me, you look at 40% of all imported beef is Australian because of those reasons. Blackmores and Swiss are the exemplars. And I think you, the winemakers, women and men, are naturally free-spirited people. Look at the room. You are a casual but serious, passionate group of people that they always would love to meet. Wine comes from the most beautiful landscapes. You are near the coast. You've got all the assets, but I think sometimes we play the wine bit up a bit too much. They're not yet confident in that space. They're very confident in knowing that they want to see natural beauty in Australia. So I think that's a real opportunity. Wine to me is Western lifestyle. It is braggable and it is shareable. And when they know and love something, they share it and it goes big time viral. Now, that's it from me. You're about to hear from Monika. Monika is, I call her the inimitable Monika Tu. Monika has figured this stuff out better than anyone else I've ever met in Australia, and she's certainly developed a high-end niche in actually that East meets West. So before Monika speaks, I'll just play a quick video. Can you hit it?
Monika Tu is the $200 million woman.
Monika Tu is the go-to agent for Chinese millionaires.
Calling Chinese-born Monika Tu just another realtor is like saying Michael Jordan was just another basketball player.
The best is yet to come.
I'm Monika Tu. I'm the founder and director of Black Diamonds Property Concierge.
Monika Tu's company, Black Diamonds, is all about luxury.
Selling homes Australia the Chinese way, and no one sells it better than Monika Tu.
This high-flying businesswoman calls herself a property concierge.
My business is definitely a big growth. We're very specialized in luxury properties. We help to sell the property and try to help people to settle into Australia. So I am a real estate agent, but I am also a businesswoman. Black Diamonds Recruitment Concierge is a project I've been passionate about for many years. Great company culture should be built amongst great energy of a great team.
Just how many properties did you sell last year?
A lot.
How many billionaires are here tonight?
A lot.
This lady has probably the most stellar list of clients of any real estate agent in the world.
I'm a huge admirer of Monika. I feel that she has the same passion for luxury as we have at Folk Australia.
It's really celebrating Monika and everything that she's done in the development of her business, of her brand. There really is a new player in the market here.
Now, why our buyers come to here, first of all, is a lifestyle. I think our culture is really unique. So we're going to inquire through the WeChat on Saturday to show them on Sunday, exchange the contract on Tuesday.
Expensive house that you have sold.
$39.9 million. The buyer doesn't like all.
Founder and director of Black Diamonds Property Concierge, Monika Tu.
I told you I'm very humble. Thank you so much, Andrew, for the introduction, and I want to thank the Wine Australia have this, opportunity to invite me. I don't really sell wine, but I'm going to go through a couple of a quick introduction about my company, and I built a company only about 8 years ago, so I'm relatively very young, and 8 is a very lucky number. So for Chinese. So 8 years, the company grew from strength to strength. So I think, but we never lose our foundation. So I think if I share my foundation with you, you think, oh, that's it? That's it. Okay, Property Concierge is a business 8 years old, and we sell, last year, our revenue is over $265 million. And we have a team only about 15, so our team grew to about 35 now. So I think this is encouraging for all the winemakers, right? So if a Chinese woman like me can do it, you definitely can do it. And we have a HR concierge, and I will explain the concierge a little bit more later on. So HR concierge is a bilingual recruitment company. So we recruit people for Australian business and also for Australian business in China. And then we have a PR and marketing. So what that do is we're helping the Australian company to have a China strategy, and also help the Chinese company, in particular those companies who want to publicly list in Australia, to really understand the essence of Australian business. So I think we sit in really good position of helping both cultures. And again, I don't sell wine, but I have a really interesting story about spirit or alcohol. So in 1985, I think before a lot of you born, right? So I was an official interpreter between Chinese government and the Qingdao beer and a beer brewery called Heuston from Germany. So you never heard that story. So I was spending 18 months of my time on the negotiating table between two cultures. So, German, 1985, China just opened up for the Western world. So this is the largest joint venture project in Shenzhen at the time, so but only $13 million US. I truly understand the difference between two cultures and two absolutely different philosophy of doing business. Western people normally are very transactional. So we give you a figure, we give the facts, and we close the deal. Whereas Chinese, bloody exhausting. So it's all about relationship. So we have few Maotai, we didn't have Australian wine at the time. We have few Maotais first, and then we get to know you, how many times you're married, then you're divorced, how many children you have. We establish a relationship. If we trust you first, and then we can do the business. So from that negotiating table, I learned a lot. At the time, I was only about early 20th. Okay, I've been in Australia for 29 years. So if you are good at math, you can figure out how old I am, and I'm not young. So from that table, I sum it up. I learned something really valuable between two cultures. It's not just the language, right? It's really understand the mentality. So I apply all this knowledge to the business I built when I come to Australia. So Black Diamonds is a second coming, actually. I built another business in IT. It's called the Laser Corporation. A lot of them probably know. So we're one of the biggest Australian Chinese-owned IT company. And this one here, we started, I get bored in 2007. I said, okay, let's start another business. Let's do real estate. So end of 2009, so the Black Diamonds Group International was born. So we're very, very young. Okay, so what are these few points? If you look at the 4 points, oh my God, is that it? That's it. Okay, so first of all, we have to know our brand. We have to know who we are. What are we standing for? So I will come back a little bit more to sharing my experience. Hopefully that will help you to brand your products. And then you have to know your audience. Like Andrew said, are you selling to China? Are you selling to Chinese? But there's so many Chinese, 1.3 billion, or 1.4 actually, billion Chinese. And which Chinese are you selling to? And again, once you decided, this is your brand, this is your audience, and then how are you going to sell it? And again, you have to have a very long vision. Okay, so you have to have long vision, and that's what a long relationship. So we come around a little bit about details. So one thing I think you guys are really lucky. I think 220, right, winemakers in the room. So the advantage you have, I don't have. First of all, is English. So you all speak English. My English is Chinglish. So if you don't understand me, please raise up your hand. Happy to. I'm a little bit nervous. I normally talk to real estate agents, right? So I know nothing about wines. This is all like really humble, beautiful, like the faces. You know what you're selling. I don't know what you're selling. So if you don't understand my English, please just ask, right? But you do have a product. If you look back 3 of my companies, the product I'm selling are not even mine. So I sell my record is $39.9 million for a house. That was not my house. So I sell 10 million to, it's not my house. Otherwise I wouldn't be here, right? So I don't even have a product to sell. So you have wine, you have Rosé, Shiraz, Cab Sauv, whatever that is your product. I don't even have a product. What that means is if I can do it, guys, you can do it too. You can do it much better than me. So next slide. So you must be wondering, I'm saying, it's all about branding. It's all about who you are, what are you branding, what are you standing for. So I want to share some of my stories with you. So when I first come to Australia, I don't know who I was. I didn't even speak English. I was a German student. I speak several languages, so a little bit French, Francais, Deutsch, but not English. But even for this lucky country, I think it's really hard. The money doesn't come from the tree, right? So I really have to find my ground and use my most valuable asset. So what is my most valuable asset? It's my Chinese eyes. So I think I look pretty good as a Chinese, and I speak the language. So, but what can I do? So at the I came here in 1988. So in the 1990s, I think the biggest market for Asian who doesn't really speak English is electronics. You agree with me? So you go to your corner store, so you get your computer fixed, So I actually found that market suits me. So all the Australian come and see me. They probably will buy something from me because, I feel like trusted because I'm Chinese. So I start a company, it's called, from a corner store from Sydney. Anybody from Sydney here? Oh, okay. So obviously a place called Surrey Hills. So there's a street called Wentworth Avenue. So opposite of Action Suzuki's. I joined this company, and this is not part of my presentation, but I think it's okay for me to share? Yeah, okay. So I started working for this company. I said, my God, I need a job. And the guy said, well, do you know anything about computers? I said, no, but I'm Chinese. I said, okay, come and join me, right? So I started selling something called a floppy disk. Remember floppy disk? So I sell so many bloody floppy disks, right, during the day. And the guy said, okay, I'll pay you, because you don't have experience, I will pay you like $300 a week. I said, okay, but can I make some commission? She said, yeah, you can make some commission. And so can I take, if I want anything I sell, I want 10% of the commission, because Chinese love commission. Chinese are motivated by commission. If you sell your wine in China, give them massive commission. Just put your margin up, okay? So first week, floppy disk is like 30 cents, right? First week, I make like $3,000. And the guy said, my God, you're really good. I said, I'm really good at sales. I can sell anything. I can sell rice to Chinese. I can sell Vegemite to Australian. Okay, so I sold lots of floppy disks. So, I made $3,000 in the first week. And this guy said, oh my God, so you're so good. Let's keep the money in the family, right? So I think we should get married. So, it's not funny. So we got... So anyway, I got married to this guy. I was 36 at the time. He was really good looking. I got married. Our marriage lasted about 14 years. But from that corner store, I grew Laser Corporation into a multinational company. So we have office in New Zealand, we have in Australia, Hong Kong, and China. But anyway, Laser Corporation is gone. So in 2007, I got so tired, and the marriage broke up. I said, look, I want to take a rest, right? So then I started a company called Real Estate. So I don't have to repeat where the black diamonds comes from, but it's a stupid name at the time, right? Now people say, oh my God, it's so good, it's a luxury, it's great, right? But at the time, really, I said, oh my God, I want to be a real estate agent. But I look around, there's so many real estate agencies there. So even in Eastern Suburb, anybody from Eastern Suburb? I know, Andrew, you are. There's 78 agencies, 200 over real estate agent. How can you crack into that market? So I go back and look at myself again. So now I'm successful because I sell a lot of floppy disk, so I got some bucks, multinational company. So now I look at myself, I look pretty good, and now I speak English, right? So I thought, okay, what about I found my market. I position myself as a luxury real estate agency, but real estate agency is not sexy. Okay, let me see, what else I can do. I don't want just to sell a real estate. I want to sell a lifestyle. So I call myself Black Diamond Property Concierge. So, the 2009, I don't even know how to spell concierge. Now I do. So the concierge is so cool. So what does concierge do? Okay, this is what we do. So we pick them up from the airport. Okay, and then we take them to the hotel. And we sit down with them to find out exactly what's the reason they come to Australia for. So number one reason, I can share this with you, is about education. Lifestyle. So lifestyle, great. So you buy my properties, I can give you an Australian lifestyle because It's an emerging market. They don't know what Australian lifestyle is. They don't know what Australian wine is. We have to educate them. We have to influence them. Then what happens is like, number two, what are you here for? Majority of them come here for education. So my concierge service provide them finding a private schools and help them anything they want, basically, right? But now we don't do like much schools or airport pickup anymore. So we go far and beyond. We help them with their business needs, lifestyle needs, and also philanthropic needs. So with this concierge service has from airport pickup to much higher level concierge service. Now, what happened is like education. What happened when we are 8 years in the market. A lot of people bought property from us. So the kids have grown up. So they said, Monika, can you please help me to find a job? My kids to find a job. I said, find a job? I'm not a recruitment agency. But I said, my God, listen, I can do that. So we started a recruit, helping these young kids. Because, normally the young Chinese are a little bit humble. You agree with me? They're humble, they're so intelligent, they're so smart. They just don't know how to present themselves. Chinese are very humble. So we equip them, right? We dress them for success. We teach them how to present, We prepare their resumes. We put them in the good business in Australia. Who doesn't want to employ a Chinese? Chinese are hardworking, they're loyal, they speak bilingual, perfect. So that's where the recruitment business started. So I wouldn't go much more about positioning and branding. So this is my story. Okay, so remember, Josh and Lisa and Jennifer and Peter, everybody is talking about a story. Am I selling a real estate? Not really. I'm selling a lifestyle. So are you just selling a wine? Or you are selling a lifestyle plus more. I don't know what that is, right? You could sell an amazing menu, Shiraz with the kangaroo meat. But whatever you're selling, it has to be unique. Whatever is your story has to be your own story. Okay, you don't copy other people's story because it's my story. So I often got, I have a lot of appearance on the media. I got once asked by Lisa Allen, the senior journalist from the Australian, said, Monika, do you have competitors? I said, no. You got to be kidding me. Next door to you is a real estate agent. But I said, but there's only one Monika Tu, because I found my value proposition. Nobody would take that away from me. So what is your value proposition, right? Who is going to take, do we have competitors? I'm sure every wine is different. Okay, you just have to find that story. So once you find the story, so you have to tell the story. So we're talking about focusing on Chinese. So if you want to share your story with Chinese, it's a totally different language. I'm not talking about Chinese, Mandarin, Cantonese, and English. It's a different way of deliver. So most people, they have an amazing website, they translate, Google Translate into that story. It's not bought by Chinese. So I give you a very quick example, right? So my time is running up, right? Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm only in the third slide. So I'm going to do really fast. I can do really fast, right? Because I can say. So translation is not everything. So you really have to tell your story. Will be heard by Chinese. For example, I'm presenting a $10 million property. So if you, Peter, what do you want to know about $10 million property? Who built the property? Where's the location? Who is the architect? And who used to live there? Okay, not for Chinese. So if you watch Google me, right? So because I've got only 10 minutes, so Google Monika Tu and the 5 pages, you get sick of me. Watch a wonderful video. So when I talk to Chinese, this is what I say. Remember the place is at a unique location. Every house is a unique location. It's close to school. Remember, number one, school. Close to school, and your neighbors who is who. You are so cool if you buy this position, because how many bedrooms? Bedrooms is not relevant, but how many ensuite? So you have to give them a message they want to listen. Okay, so if you have a story, you make sure you translate the way the Chinese will understand. So now you have a story, now you know your brand, now you know how I sell. This is kind of my secret. How many people have like $10 million to advertise into China? Oh my God, Stuart, raise up your hand. Stuart is the marketing manager from Wine Australia. So you, just joking. So, even I do $200 something million, I do not have $10 million to advertise in China. Okay, so Andrew just said, we're not selling to China, we're selling to Chinese. But who are these Chinese? So how are you going to sell it? This is my little tool to sell, okay? This platform is absolutely amazing. So over 1 billion people are using this platform. Anybody heard about WeChat in the room? Oh, wow, all of you. Anybody on the WeChat? Oh, jeez. Okay, anybody have an official account about WeChat? So, 1. Oh, who is Dan? I think here. Yeah, two. Official account. 3, 4. Okay, 4. 4 people out of 220. That's embarrassing. Okay, so what does WeChat do? So WeChat is basically a Google, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, and also a payment platform. Okay, this is a really powerful tool. So that's what I use. So 1 point something billion people on WeChat, including my mother, 81 years old. So he can leave you a message. If you don't bother to reply, you can reply later. Okay, she cannot call you. Okay, actually she can. I just don't answer. So WeChat is really, really powerful. And I just read some statistics. 943 million of Australians actually spend every 3 hours on WeChat. So if you have $10 million to advertise in Shanghai, you can have a big billboard or Sydney airport. But guess what? Everybody don't look up, they look down. Do you see that? This is our Chinese behavior. Okay, so this is the cheapest way to advertise. It's just in your pocket. So all you have to do is about. But what WeChat does for me is WeChat helped me to sell real estate. If you Google me again, okay, so there's something called Australian newspaper and current affair. So I actually share my experience with all the Australian audience about how to use WeChat. So I just sold a property, $10 million by WeChat. So I didn't know who was the buyer. He was just one of my followers. I said, okay, this is Thursday. Can I please come on? I said, yeah, go. So one of my salesperson just took me to see the property. On Monday, we sent the contract, and Wednesday we exchanged $10 million. This is at the Hopeland Avenue at the Vaucluse. Okay, in Sydney. So again, just recently I have done a WeChat blast for Sydney Contemporary. So if people love arts, that's one of the best fair. So I did a WeChat blast, and one of my buyers went there about 13 pieces of arts. So this sound might be relevant, but or irrelevant, but actually it's relevant for your business, right? So that's a very cheap and economic way to do business today with the Chinese. Okay, so this is some stocks, and you can just take a screenshot, and you can, so just WeChat is my way of doing business, but there's many other ways. So once you have story, I think the UI is amazing platform to telling the stories. We don't sell wine, we sell story, but what is your story? Okay, WeChat is not just a social platform, it's a very powerful business platform. I think that's on time. Okay, just sum up. This is my Chinese takeaway. Okay, know your brand. Okay, so basically I do know my brand, and I exactly know where I stand for. So find your brand and make sure the message is delivered in a way that Chinese, if you want to target Chinese market, Chinese will understand. And know your audience. So just to let you know, you are not selling to China, you're selling to Chinese. Like Andrew said, these people is just on your backyard. So one thing I want to really important for me is 90% of my business are referrals. So I make everybody come into my door to be ambassador of my brand. Okay, please make everybody come to your seller door, be your ambassador, be a brand messenger, be the biggest advocate for your brand. And again, pick up the right platform. So there's a lot of out there, but for all of you, I think probably WeChat UI is one of the really powerful platform, and have a long-term vision. Doing business with Chinese is bloody exhausting. Okay, you have to be really patient, but if you genuinely show your love, and they will be with you forever. And also, me and Andrew are here to help you. If you want to know a little bit more about WeChat, how we can help, love to help. Thank you.